It's really just like artists that I have seen do other stuff that has been challenging and exciting and interesting, get these things and like kind of just slap it in there and then start doing lots of stuff with just that thing and that idea slapped in there. And it feels like whatever curiosity and creativity was driving all the other stuff was kind of like relinquished. And it's like, okay, cool. I've got the shorthand now that I can rely on.
Hey, how's it going? You are here for Heavy Art Talk, and today I am extremely excited. I'm having Jay Sant on the podcast. His Instagram handle is Mute Neighbor, but he is a digital collage artist and also an author. So I'm excited to talk about books and literature as well as art and just everything else under the sun. But some of the bands he has worked with would include Chat Pile, Portrayal of Guilt, Dillinger Escape Plan, and many more. Without further ado, Jay, what's happening, man?
Hey, not much. How you doing?
Doing good, dude.
Hell yeah.
We were just talking for like 20 minutes backstage, so we'll just keep it going. But
Yeah.
what have you been listening to lately? I feel like you got really good music taste.
Oh God, I don't know about that.
I'm building you up,
man. This is going to be a fun push and pull between like building up and downplaying. Let's see here. I just started listening to Pest Control. They're out of England, I think Leeds. It's like crossover thrash, so they kind of have like a power trip vibe to them. The new Primitive Man, I think, is like the best album that they've done, and it's cool listening to like music that your friends have made and kind of having your socks blown off by that stuff. Just really good dudes. Degenerate Synapse out of Chicago. It's like death grind. It's more grind, I'd say. It's kind of like in the dim Mac school of death grind stuff, like early Nasum stuff. Blood Monolith, just straight up death metal.
That was good. A lot of people slept on that. That was a really good record.
Yeah, I almost didn't. I thought I had already listened to it because just Blood and Monolith both seem to be in a dozen different band names, so I thought I had already heard it.
Yeah,
and I did. I finally listened to it, and it was pretty blown away. Been listening to Dry Cleaning, their new record I like a lot. Fever
that's
Rays,
like indie kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. I'm not smart enough to know the school of music that it would come from, but like the singer's voice is very, very monotone, and it's very like kind of like spoken and
yeah,
like a heavy affectation. The music though is very, very involved in nuance, and it's like it's if you like it, then it's awesome. If you don't like that sort of sound, then you will not be able to tolerate it. And then I've been listening
kind of Nick Cave, Black Midi, kind of like, well, like they both have that kind of like, they're not always singing per se, they're like talking, and it's more about like the words they're saying and the feeling.
Yeah, she has like this sort of like bored or like sort of aloof like persona that she does it. So Nick Cave's thing is like very dramatic, even though it's like still kind of spoken and there's a drama to it. Her thing is like kind of just like floating through life, observing everything, not above it all, but like observing everything, not necessarily being like battered around by it like Nick Cave might be. But yeah, they're fun. And then I've been listening to Fever Ray's last album, which has been the remix album that she put out. It's fucking incredible.
I need to check that out.
It's good. It's kind of incredible how much her like sound has evolved from like even like 2 or 3 records ago. It's wild. And then the last one was Irk, out of also I think also Leeds. Yeah, it's like a 3 piece bass, drums, and vocals. Uh, Super heavy, incredibly uh, not impenetrable math y kind of. It's like if big business went like very mathy and
Okay.
had a lot of angles to their riffs, um, and then like very like snarling, snotty vocals. Yeah, they're cool. They out of nowhere, 7 years after their last record, all of a sudden it was like, "Hey, we have a new album." Like, I thought you guys broke up. This is awesome. So I was very, very excited. But yeah, that's
Nice.
about it. There are a bunch of other stuff, like smaller things, but in terms of the heavy hitters, those have been in regular rotation.
So it seems like you listen to a lot of kind of like mathy stuff, sludge, but you're also interested in like non-metal artists that are like forward thinking in some way or different, you know.
Oh
So I'm
yeah,
kind of getting that vibe.
yeah. I the heavier stuff will always, I think, outweigh the other stuff or the other artists. But I think I listen to a much wider range of non-heavy artists. Um, like if it's Fever Ray or Dry Cleaning or Pile or Angel Olsen or Amel and the Sniffers or whatever these other, um, I don't even have a list of artists. Bat for Lashes,
Oh yeah.
Viagra Boys, all these other bands. I definitely listen to a ton of that. But in terms of like plays overall, there's a lot of rap too that
Hmm.
finds its way in there. Um,
Is there a genre you don't typically listen to?
uh, Ska. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I stay away from anything with brass in it. Um, uh, Not, I mean, there's definitely genres that I'm kind of a tourist in. Like I'll take, the notables. There's not a lot that country offers me. There's, some very small niche artists, but again, even then, there's just not. Once I hear them and I like them, you do the thing if you love music or art or whatever the art form is, you start looking out for like, okay, who influenced them or who do they speak highly of. And I'll listen to like Bobby Dove or Cass McCombs or uh whoever else, and then I'll hear like, oh, like I was influenced by X, or I am touring with Y and I'm really excited about it because they're very important to me. And I just kind of like run into like a desert outside of these little
Yeah.
oases of so I feel like a tourist with that stuff. I try not to eliminate anything, but there's definitely like limits to how successful it is when I go out and try to find something that grabs me.
Yeah. I'm a similar way with country and probably hip hop and rap too. It's like I like both genres, or like there's plenty of artists that I do like, but it's like I don't reach for it usually. But if it's on and it's like good, I can recognize that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm lucky to have a handful of friends who are a lot more well versed in hip hop than I am. So they'll, message me out of the blue and be like, "You need to listen to the new Billy Woods record because it's
Hmm.
like a 40-minute long panic attack. It's just
That sounds
visceral,
intense.
visceral, dude. It is. You want to feel. You want to hear a record that feels like he pulled just the psychic damage that's been inflicted over the last 10 years and like turned it into sound and then put it onto a record and said like, hey, you should listen to this. Like that new record
Billy
is
Woods, huh? I'll
definitely,
have to check
yeah.
that out.
Gollywog. um yeah, it's that album's a fucking nightmare, but it is so good. It is so, so good.
Sounds cool. Uh, would you call yourself a collector?
Yeah, I don't. I know it's kind of anathema. I don't really have a lot of records.
I just mean of anything. Like, are there
Oh,
things
yeah,
you
yeah.
collect? Like, I
Yeah,
see your
absolutely.
posters behind you, and they look really cool.
Yeah, that's my
That's fucking
Deadly
awesome.
Prey painting from Ghana. Um,
Hell yeah.
yeah, I at this point, every surface that we have, every flat surface that we have in our place is covered with art. And then my flat file, the bottom flat file, each drawer is full of stuff that I just don't have room for. Um, yeah, I definitely, I wouldn't say compulsively collect art, but there's a very like, I see a thing that's like that just arresting, and my brain goes, we need to see that up close all the time. Like, you know, let's do this. So I've definitely, I've amassed a pretty cool collection. I'm I'm happy with
Originals
it.
and prints. A kind of a
Yeah,
blend of
yeah,
both.
yeah. When I had my old job, doing the originals thing was the preferred way to go, just because being able to see the human element in it is awesome. I have a page from this graphic novel series called, where is it? American Vampire. This artist, Raphael Albuquerque, did all the illustration, and it's just the most painterly, uh, illustrative, um, just beautiful style. Like most of their pages, interior pages, would be covers for other books level. Like the composition, the layout stuff, it's just unreal. And there was a show in Chicago one year. It was like a bunch of original pages from that series, and he was there. And I was like walking through, and I saw like a bunch of pages that I had recognized from the books, and I saw the one that I got, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get this because I don't know, when I'll ever have another chance to snag one of these things." And then like I got it, and you can see like a little thumbprint, like where he's like, or fingerprint where he's like drawing, and he put his finger in like some ink that wasn't fully dry or whatever, and you can see all the little whiteout spots where he's like, nope, 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 and then
Yeah.
like fixing it and all, and the pencil, the blue pencil underneath, and it's like seeing all of that stuff really makes the human involvement feel so much more tangible. So yeah, originals are so cool when when you can do them. Um, Definitely have like a decent number of them. I have like Allison Summers. I've got Jonathan Lamontia. I've got Matt Sticker, Johnny Sampson. Uh, any of these guys? Oh, this one. Uh, it's another thing.
Oh,
It's
nice.
the monster at the end. What's Blair Monster? That was comic writer and author Jim. Uh, Shit, what is his name? I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head. Um, but yeah, I saw him at like a Comic Con or a C2E2, and he had it on his table, and I was like, it's the thing. I have to buy it. So I snagged it, and I'm stoked that I have it. Jim Terry. That's it.
Oh yeah, Jim Terry. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of good originals there. It sounds like, man. I
Yeah.
know most of those artists. I think I know all of them, but I'm not as familiar with Alison Summers' work. But I do believe I follow her.
Caroline, who we both know.
Caroline
Uh,
Harrison.
yeah, very well. The maniac known as Caroline, is one of the biggest uh, cheerleaders for Allison Summers. So she's the reason why I found out about her and started following her.
Nice.
And yeah, it's like maybe that big. It's a teeny, teeny, tiny little thing. And it's just like a cube of just squelchy meat and like fungus or mold. Like it's gross, but it's really tiny. So you have to get up really close to it. And then there's just like all these gross little tactile details, and it's beautiful color palette. And yeah, she's rad. I
That's
also have an
awesome.
original Caroline Harrison somewhere. I thought it was on this wall, but it's not.
Nice, man. Yeah, I like that you're a collector. I not that like I obsess about what my identity is, but if I do think about like collecting and like what I have and like that kind of stuff almost as much as I think of myself as an artist. Like seeking that stuff out and like I don't know. It's just it's a hobby, you know what I mean? Like it's a hobby I'm very interested in, like hunting down cool art and
Mhm.
originals, and I don't know. It.
For
I mean, somebody has to do it, right? Like it's important for the art
I
economy.
I hope somebody does it. It feels like the last year, not a lot of people are doing it because I think everybody's a little bit on edge. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I've necessarily thought of myself in the terms of being a collector, but it's definitely a thing where like part of me is like I really want to support that artist because either like we've said like hi in passing online or we know each other in person or whatever, or this is just the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm mad that I didn't make this. I want to have this so I can like see it all the time and like be surrounded by these things that like make my brain veer away from its, tendencies towards anxiety or depression and like towards like look at what people did because they were dedicated and they were focused and they were weird and they weren't editing themselves as they worked. They just made stuff. And, having that stuff around is very good for my brain. Just feeling better
Yeah,
about
I feel the
life
same
across the
way.
board. Yeah,
People doing things for the hell of it because it
they
brings
have to.
purpose to
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah. It's just they have to. Like Instagram goes down tomorrow, which is not the worst thing in the world for me. I I would be okay with it. I would still be making what I make. I would just have to find some other way to like put it out into the world so I'm not just creating in a vacuum. But yeah, I'd be making it one way or another, no matter what.
Yeah. It's a compulsion, isn't it?
It's a need. It is a deep, deep need. It is an itch that uh, needs to be scratched, not
What was it like growing
relentlessly.
up then with like art and stuff? So you got interested at a young age and were creating stuff, or what was that experience like?
Yeah, my dad is incredibly versatile creatively. He's like a world class illustrator. He is a painter. He's messed around with sculptural stuff. He was kind of a just a troublemaker shithead when he was younger, but he was using his art to like kind of uh, further that. He painted an LTD Crown Victoria so that it looked like a cop car, including the seal of the city that he lived on, like the cop cars actually had on the door. But he changed like the orange and the orange tree to like pot leaves and a like a benzo pill or something. And hand painted it, did all this stuff. It looked real. They drove around and like fake pulled people over for a couple hours and then uh, like stuff like that. You grow up with uh, uh, somebody that you idolize that also has that kind of like little shithead mentality associated with the art, and it really like flavors your relationship to what you gravitate towards creatively, what you want to do creatively. Um, so yeah, like early age, I would definitely like draw. Um, I think though, when I got like Photoshop 7, was it 6 or 7? That was like when my brain really, really, really lit up. That and like I was like maybe 13 or 14. We got the internet, and it was like, oh my god, this can be anything. And here's this program that I can use to make anything. And it was did what anybody does when they're really starting out in a medium, is you kind of learn by imitation and like sort of deconstructing these things that are really making your brain hum with excitement, and like how did they get to this, what was their thought process, and like where were the moments where they're they were making this piece that their brain went, oh shit, this is cool, let's keep doing that. And is I, I think being blessed with an overabundance of self-awareness and anxiety, social anxiety. uh I was never, thankfully, not aware that everything that I was making was not really, it was important and it was essential because it was how I needed to get going, but it wasn't art yet. It was learning, and it was studying, and it was acquiring tools, and it was acquiring modes, and like putting all these things into the bucket that would sit there and marinate for a while, and then eventually start figuring out a way to get my mind and everything else married with it, and then start creating my own stuff. So yeah, my dad was like constantly drawing, or not constantly, but he would draw and paint, and then like we would do art projects together for school, and that was always fun. He introduced me to like Black Sabbath, and um, so like there's that musical element as well. And it was just kind of, I started playing drums when I was like 6, and had the good fortune of having parents who were like, yeah, you can play for a couple hours every day. And I don't know how they did that, but it was awesome. And I've been playing for over 30 years now, 35 years. And that's another like absolutely crucial part of like creativity. That is the most flow state I'll ever get, is playing drums. But yeah, grew up with it, and I was really, really fortunate with parents that encouraged it, and kind of let me flail when I had to flail, and were there to be excited when I did something that I was excited about. And oh,
That's really cool, man. And I'm also a drummer, so I can relate to what you're saying with like flow
hell
state
yeah.
and like being in the moment. Um, but I want to ask maybe a dumb question, but when your dad is like a badass, and I can tell that when we're teenagers we naturally rebel. So how do you rebel against like a badass dad? Because
Um,
my dad, I love him, but he's not like what you just described. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't describe my dad as a badass. My dad is a goofball, and is just a very strange person. And but he's also like, he really sacrificed a lot for my sister and I to be able to have the childhood that we did. So he did put some of the creative stuff that he did kind of on the back burner, in order, like his job at one point, the commute was like an hour and a half each way. um but he was still like, he's very like, his, he had a difficult upbringing and was determined to not have that same experience with his own kids. And so my sister and I were the beneficiaries of that with our folks. So like the rebelling thing, I didn't really need to rebel against my parents. I definitely like, separated myself. You grow up early and you're like very much like, oh, what are you into? I'm going to follow that. I'm going to follow that. And then eventually you start peeling away, and my dad's not going to ever listen to harsh noise, or like Merzbow's not on his radar at all. um and there's like a lot of I don't know if this was the same for you, but like in college, getting into like transgressive art, or like film, like it was like, I need to see like everything, I need to see the full spectrum of it. Like, I'm going to watch Miike's Visitor Q, or whatever, one of his early splatter, grindhouse movies, as often as I'm going to watch Eight and a Half, or some like, snooty art film. I'm going to try to like cover the spectrum as much as possible. And it was just a question of like, it was less, all right, I'm going to rebel and like fuck that thing that you liked and fuck that thing that you showed me. I'm going to go do this. And it was more like, those things are cool. I really like them. What else is there? And what else can I like? There, there was a site in like 96 or 97 called epitonic.com, and it didn't last too long. It was, it's so early. It was, I think, like the highest bit rate for an MP3 was 256. It was still like no CD quality audio online, but like I found that place, and that was like where I found like Tribe Like Jehu. I was there. They had Caress uploaded on there, and I listened to it. And I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then like uh, like a bunch of the San Diego hardcore stuff, VSS Swing Kids were on there, and like it was just moments like that where I would dig around and like, oh, there's this thing. I really like this. I really like this, and I think my dad, maybe our parents' generation, is more of a find it and stick with it because they never grew up with everything at their fingertips. So yeah, didn't have to rebel a lot. Just kind of trial and errored my way into
Well, you
stuff that I like.
dug deeper into things. Yeah. I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
So art and music were roughly around the same time. What about like writing? When did you come into that?
Oh, that is such a weird outlet for me. I've had story ideas, or like I've had premises and story ideas and characters pop in my head, since like junior high. And I think I think for a most of the chunk of like my, junior high school, even like a part of college, there was just a part of me that like was very immature and needed to like experience and be an observer and absorb, just because I didn't have the discipline, I didn't have the focus, and like I knew when I did do these things that would be all I wanted to do, and I was very hesitant. It was like becoming a parent. Like I want to be selfish and have my life and be able to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. And so it was a lot of like, we were talking about rebelling. Like I had grown up evangelical originally, and then the whole family had an experience, and then we all walked away from the Christianity thing. So the rebelling for me in high school and college was not against my folks. It was against, this very corrupt, false, oppressive system that we had been a part of, this evangelical church, and like just all the nonsense that comes along with it.
Yeah.
So like I had these story ideas, but I felt like there was an entire world out there that I hadn't experienced, I hadn't seen, I hadn't like made mistakes, I hadn't said yes to situations that I could not say yes to if I was still, religious at all.
So you were limited to seeing like cultural things. Like you couldn't watch certain things, you couldn't play certain video games. Is that kind of what you're talking about? But beyond that?
Sort of. It wasn't, and it wasn't even like here's a hard and fast rule. It's just, man, the guilt that comes from Christianity, just like the, fucking Jesus really went through it for you. Come on. And you're like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't listen to this like death metal album that's got a devil on the cover. It's probably bad. Or, this story that I have in my head is pretty dark, and like, does the world really need more darkness in it? Like, we're not supposed to be darkness. We're supposed to be a light in the world.
Right.
Just shit like that, just nonstop. So yeah, I put off writing because I didn't feel like I had a voice. I didn't feel like I had an informed perspective, and I didn't feel like I had anything to say. Um, so like I went to college, I did like film and journalism for a bit. I ended up getting my degree in writing. My writing mentor was Philip K. Dick. So that was like an immediate, like, the amount of sci-fi and horror that I've read in my lifetime is embarrassing. And finding out that he had like mentored under Philip K. Dick and gone surfing with him for years and years and years and years was like, my brain started melting out of my ears in the class.
That's so
And
cool.
then it was really hard to not treat his office hours like, so like, did you know him when he was writing Flow My Tears? Did he talk about how he didn't like have an ending figured out when he was writing it? Or
Yeah.
I would try to ask him questions and also be like, not too Chris Farley about it. Um, yeah, I knew that like if I wrote anything, it would be very false and it would be very like, um, it would check boxes, but it wouldn't be something that I could say like, yeah, I wrote it and yeah, I put myself into it. So I have like started and finished things over, I'd say like the last 15 years, and just never done anything with them because it's like, this, I know this isn't good. I know this isn't right. And for me, whether or not people respond to it positively is totally irrelevant. But it really took until like last year where I was like, I think I just hit that point where the switch in my brain flipped to, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my mind. I need to start like getting these stories out and really dedicating myself to this again on like a daily basis. Um, so yeah, that was, it was one of like, I've got you probably can't see it on the camera. I've got a like a pilcrow uh, tattooed on my knuckle. And it was, I got it like 12 years ago. It was just like a reminder, like I constantly look at it and be like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be doing this. I know I'm supposed to be doing this. And then, yeah, finally did it. And very like, now that I am, it feels really good. Very
That's great to
happy
hear,
about it.
man. I haven't written anything, but I've kind of like fallen back in love with reading in the last year and a half. I kind
Mhm.
of like broke the pattern. It's not that I like have ever, you just have habits, you know what I mean? So like I actually had it as like a New Year's resolution for 2025. 2024, I was reading comics. I haven't read as much comics. I've shifted more to, literature or whatever. I love
Right.
both mediums. It's just my kick right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last year I always have one book that I'm reading, and it's just been like a really good thing for me.
Yeah, man.
Because it's such a beautiful art form and expands your mind, and then it also, and like, it has so many tangible benefits beyond it just being enjoyable. Like, I feel like I'm a better illustrator and composing scenes because I'm
Hmm.
doing that while I'm reading, So
Hmm.
like it helps you as a visual artist, I think, too.
Absolutely. It also, like, I don't know what that muscle is, but when I have gone stretches without reading and I come back to it, it is, at least for me, like humiliating the first
Yeah, it's
book
hard.
I read because I get tired quickly. Like, this is embarrassing. I used to read like 3 books a day when I was in, fifth grade. What is happening? And then, you get back into it, and yeah, like you said, it's your mind's eye is like working overtime, and it starts creating all these different connections with other things that you've seen or read. And yeah, it I've been going through a ton of short story collections,
Same here.
because it's, oh yeah, who are
Horror and
you,
sci-fi mostly, but yeah.
who are you reading?
Well, I've read about like 20 or so PKD stories. I really like
Yeah.
his, like, I think he's a really good, just like short story guy.
Hmm.
And then I have read through 2 Stephen King horror books. So
Yeah, yeah,
story books. So Skeleton Crew and his novella collection, Four Past Midnight. I just finished
yeah,
that.
yeah. That's
And then I
awesome.
have a sci-fi anthology that was published in like the 90s that is it's actually selected by jurors of the Science Fiction Association of America. So it's kind of like
Okay.
a greatest hits. It's really good. I
Yeah,
got it from
yeah, yeah.
Goodwill. But like I read Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I
Mhm.
might be butchering it. I read that for the first time. I read Bloodchild by Octavia Butler and
Yeah.
Flowers for Algernon. I read that for the first time. I love that book. I don't know about the actual book, but the short story is great. Um, but yeah, just I don't know. Short stories are great because you can kind of pump through them a little quicker. And it's good between
Yeah.
like big books to kind of like have a gap.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. God, especially with King. Um, yeah, the short story benefit for me is definitely like just seeing authors how it's it's I don't read just to be clinical about it, but like when I finish stuff I do notice as much like how it made me feel and all of that stuff as I do like the mechanics of like what the author's been doing. And it's
Yeah.
awesome seeing an author write one story and it's like, okay, things are working on this level, and then there's this subtext that's over here. Here's a story over here that's told entirely present perfect tense, and it's like that because they're doing blah blah blah. Like China Mayville, I don't know how his last name's pronounced, has this short story collection called Three Moments of an Explosion. And he he is one of the most just unbelievably adept and like gifted writers.
I've heard good things, but he doesn't come up that often. China Melville, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, he the moments of the explosion, he's got a story like they're not, here's the point A in the story, here's point B, and here's point C, and they get to the end. Some of them are like kind of more like here's a snapshot in a larger world that is constantly moving and going, and you're just getting dropped in right now and
Hmm.
up to this point. So there's like a conclusion to the narratives, but there's not necessarily like arcs or like, all the other requirements of narrative storytelling. He's got one like these giant icebergs appear over London and they're just floating, and like they don't know why they've gathered, and it freaks people out. People start getting scared. Like, what if they fall? Why are they here? And like these kids figure out like, oh, if we go up on this tall building, we can like jump on the iceberg and climb around on it. And somebody like falls off and dies, and like the story kind of just ends without any answers or resolution to the
Kind of
icebergs
reminds me
or
of
whatever.
Roadside Picnic in a way.
Roadside Picnic.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi book from the 70s, Strugatsky brothers, so it
Oh,
was a Soviet
yeah,
sci-fi. Um there's a recent
it's
translation
Stalker.
from the last.
Yeah,
Yeah, Stalker. Yeah, just the concept of like something odd happening to the planet. You don't know why. There's not really a purpose. People traversing to it, getting injured or killed or whatever.
yeah.
If you the latest translation of Roadside Picnic, I feel like you'd love it based
Hell
on
yeah.
what I've learned so far. It's
I
probably one of my top 5 favorite books for sure.
That's awesome. I'm adding it to the list. I love the movie Stalker. Um, I
Nice.
don't know why I never like looked into the book it was based on.
Oh, it's
Watch
great. Yeah.
Watched a bunch of Tarkovsky, and I was like, oh yeah, Solaris, that's cool. I'm not going to read the book, I guess.
Oh,
Roadside
that's another
Picnic,
good one.
not yeah. Which like I know about that one, but it's also like one of those where like every time I look at it, I'm like, God, that looks dense. I just haven't like been in the mindset to commit to it. But yeah, that those being writing that kind of story, he like he can just introduce there's another one where like a medical student is gotten to the point where they're doing dissecting human cadavers, and he's working and he like separates, I think it's like the thigh muscle or something, and he's like opening it up and he's like folding it back so he can expose the femur, and he looks down and there's this like intricate pattern that's carved into the bone, or like is like in the bone somehow, grown out of or carved into, whatever. And he like looks at it and his brain just like shuts down. Like, this shouldn't be here under any circumstances. This is just a person that I just opened up, and there's this intricate pattern across the entire skeletal system. It's not,
Sounds awesome.
just
This is China Melville, right?
yeah,
You're talking about him.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is this a short
And
story collection that has these?
yeah, 3 moments of an explosion. I think it's like 12 or 13 stories.
So that's the name of the
Um,
overarching thing. Okay. Got it.
yeah, but
I want to buy that.
he starts like sourcing other bodies and like doing other like dissections, and he starts like kind of losing his mind. And there's no like, there's no answer. There's no, oh, this is why they're there. It's just very much this guy and his psyche disintegrating. And um he even found a way to write a short story. Do you remember old video games before they were 3D, the like 3D
Yeah.
shooters? And like you go around like a dead body, like in Wolfenstein or Quake or whatever, and the feet would always follow you no
Yeah.
matter, where. He wrote a story where like somehow made it believable, or believable enough that you were really invested in the characters who are dealing with it, where people start dying and immediately their feet become oriented towards the viewer, no matter like where you turn. And
That's cool.
like it's shouldn't work. It is such a goofy idea. But then like the way he's talking about it and like what it does to like crime investigations and what it does to the world of like funeral stuff, and like, yeah, it's just it was very, very like, you start reading it, you're like, wait, why do I know he's talking about sprites like in Wolfenstein? What the hell? This is Doom. And he made, this very like touching, weird sci-fi story.
Yeah. I love that kind of like liminal kind of David Lynchian sci-fi like blend, like where it's just
Mhm.
like there's this one concept that's like a little off kilter and mysterious. Like that always sucks me in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very strange, but it's always like he always does stuff that is just incredible. John Langan is a horror author who's done a bunch of short story collections, and he's got such a good feel for like a very tangible world that very tangible, real characters seem to occupy, even though like some sort of cosmic horror is happening or some sort of creature thing is happening. And like he's very, very good at building an emotional core into the stories. And it's also weird too, like you start reading the short stories and you start realizing like authors have certain things that they gravitate towards a ton, and he uses a ton of in a ton of his stories, a story within a story framing device.
Okay.
I have 2 or 3 pages of like, here's the present or whatever, or here's this situation, and a character starts talking. Then the chunk of the story happens, and then there's the conclusion at the end of it. And it his first or second full length novel, The Fisherman, had it like.
I've heard
I
very
would
good things
say,
about that too.
dude, it doesn't seem like it when it starts. It's the guy loses his wife, starts fishing, meets a buddy. They start looking for good fishing holes. Then they hear about this one that like people shy away from, and then
But it's
stuff
good.
happens. Oh my
yeah.
god, the scope of going from like two dudes on the shore of a river trying to figure out how to talk about grief and loss through like, the masculine filter of stoicism, to like one of the most just jaw-dropping cosmic horror conclusions. It is, the journey from A to Z is unbelievably cool. and it's again, it's like 70% of the story is a story within a story, and you're like, okay, this is awesome. And then you start reading all the other short stories, and you're like, oh, he just really likes this, and he uses it differently every time, but he really, really loves having these people. And then here's another narrative, and then it joins up with this one, and then they conclude it. And seeing
Well, I
that
just
and seeing
added
like that,
two here.
hell yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't. You already got me hyped. I don't want to hear any spoilers.
yeah, no, no, no.
Gotta,
I'm stoked that you get to read that book for the first time, because I truly did not know where it was going.
all right, one more writer based question, and then we'll get back to art. Thank
Yeah,
you
man.
guys for your patience with it. I mean, these are all cool fucking concepts. You know what I mean? That's what we're here for. I guess like, you know, you can either take a whatever, but like top 3 authors and books that you really like
Oh,
that stick with
Jesus.
you, or just a couple that are top of mind right now. Not your definitive.
Yeah, god damn. Give me a minute on that. I would say Ursula Le Guin,
Definitely.
Lathe of Heaven
Okay.
was just like no hand holding for the reader at all. It was just, here's my imagination, here's the story. It is going to absolutely erode your certainty of the reality in this book out from under your feet, and you're going to be compelled to keep reading because of how it keeps changing, even though it's so
Like unreliable narrator or what?
it just the reality that the characters are a part of, like the narrator's sort of, it's not, I can't remember, it's not omniscient, but it's, it's just a narrator just telling the story, but like the reality in that story shifts and shifts and shifts. um it's just unbelievably masterful. Uh I think, like, just because we talked about it, like The Fisherman's definitely on there, just in terms of like more of a modern classic. The mythos that he builds without being derivative of Lovecraft, and like, the sort of cosmic, Mount Rushmore's, um like multiple layers of mythos, and very emotionally driven, the widower trying to figure out who he is, and what life is for him now. um yeah. I think the other one that is on my list, which a lot of people, it's kind of divisive, and it's a very, very pop choice, Stephen King's Revival, just because you talked about his short story collection earlier. um that is like maybe the bleakest novel he's ever written outside of Pet Cemetery. It's a cosmic horror also, and like the narrator at one point is like, kind of wants to, take themselves out, and by the end of the story is committed to staying alive as long as possible because he knows what comes after, and he's terrified of it, and
That's a
it
cool
comes forever.
concept.
Yeah, it flips at one point. He gets a vision of after, and it is, cosmic horror of like the most elevated kind, and just that sort of feeling of like having somebody actually make it through the big climax and like not die, and then have the thing that is the most fearful like thing for them is having to do what they didn't want to do, which is continue living, because what comes after is even worse than the pain of living. It was like there was no glimmer of hope anywhere in that book.
So it's
I
just
don't
for
know.
you.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know what was going on in his life at the time, but like that and fucking Pet Cemetery, which is like maybe his other bleakest story, like those two were just like dude, you were having a bad year when you wrote these or something. But yeah, those
Have you
are
read
recent.
the story The Jaunt by Stephen King?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's another
yeah,
cool like cosmic horror kind of thing.
yeah.
That's a
And
good
it's
story.
the horror of the unknown, and like just the fallout from, the kid opening his eyes,
Yeah.
uh and just like the desperate need to know what it was, and like, you're not going to get that. You're just going to live with the horror that it wrought on somebody else, and you're like, yeah, pretty good. That's pretty good.
Cool, cool, man. Well, back to art. How do we segue this? I guess let's look at contemporary, right? So like what's going on out there right now with like artists and artists who work with music, metal bands mostly and stuff. Like what's some stuff that you see out in the ether from like your peers that you really like? Like what are some things that inspire you maybe even right now?
Oh man. Like Grady Gordon,
Mhm.
is Joaquin Dead on Instagram. That dude just is relent. I don't know how somebody has a work ethic that like focused and dedicated. He seems so sure of what he's doing and what he wants to do, and everything that he puts out feels very much taken from something real that he's translated, whether it was like a dream or like somebody's memory, but like the emotional aspect of the memory also, and it's getting condensed into this black and white monotype with these very like distorted but very um expressive lines, and just he uses like q-tips, and he'll use like plastic combs and stuff to like just pull ink away or push it around, and he's created landscapes, he's created reapers, just these weird abstract amalgams of like just horror elements, and he does it all the time, and it's awesome because it's just like I'm glad one of us is able to just keep firing on all cylinders, because I'm definitely getting knocked around mentally. So having a friend like that definitely keeps me going. Trying to think of who else has really been knocking my socks off. Um, Jesse Draxler does really cool stuff. Um, I There's some artists that I follow where I wish I knew less about them, and there's some that I wish I knew more. And like he's not problematic. He hasn't done anything or whatever. It's just like there's an aspect to the online persona of like being very sure and aware of who he is, and very like confident and cocky about it, kind of. It
Mhm.
puts kind of a bad taste in my mouth. So I like try to like not look at his stories and just look at finished pieces that he posts, which like nobody has to be likable. He can be whatever he wants to be. His art is cool. He's not hurting anybody. That's my personal response. Alex Ekman Lon is another dude, who who's like just reliable. That dude is constantly creating, constantly evolving his aesthetic, or like the ideas or the emotion that the pieces are going for. um and like the fact that he's doing all that shit in Photoshop, and then he's printing it and cutting it up and building, like designing the stuff that he does already. It's intricate, and it's textured, and it's colorful, and it's all these things, and like doing all that and then knowing that like, oh, there's an entire back half to this process and I have to design for that portion of the process while still making this part of it look good is wild. So he makes me happy. Jonathan Lamontia's stuff makes me, I love dense line work. God damn. Like Aaron Horkey or Karamazid or a bunch of your pieces or Shoggoth Kinetics Lucas
Yeah.
Forte. Um, any that like there's like sort of a frantic quality to it, like which I know it's not frantic because anybody I've ever watched do hatch work and stippling, it is painstaking and it is glacial and it is um, something that my brain refuses to engage with if I'm doing it myself because I do like a couple hatch marks and then I'm like, this is insane. This is going to take me 2 hours to get this far. No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But people who do that, I look at that stuff and my brain's like, all of these little lines make me so happy. So his stuff is cool. Pat Roizen, I think it's Pat underscore Roizen, is kind of starting to shift into like working with heavy bands. He makes really squelchy, goopy, disgusting illustrations. Just mutated, uh, blistered, pustule laden, and like, but it's got so much personality behind it. It's not super grim, but there is like a horror to it, and there is like a reaction that it prompts where you're looking at it and you're like, Jesus, okay, wow. But then you also look at it and you're like, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. What the hell is that? So he really straddles this line of like, he's created stuff that is 100% grim and horrific and like good for like metal bands or like, you know, dark synth wave bands or whatever. And then he's done stuff where you're like, that is like just horrifyingly funny and like very, there's a specificity to the images that he creates that are like, why is that in your head and why is that so like there's only 3 tentacles there and we know that there should be like X number more. You chose that amount and it's the right choice. Like, how did you do that? Like, how did you choose the blood color to be this color instead of, you know, red or whatever? Yeah, he just makes really gross stuff that makes my brain happy.
I'll have to check him out. I know the other artists, and I think all of those have been on the show, so cool.
Yeah.
I'm running out of artists. No, not really. I always find more, but which is a common question I get about the show. It's like, aren't you running out of artists? I'm like, man, I'll just have repeat people on. I got enough to work with. For anybody curious out there, it's a marathon,
God,
man.
There's so many artists out there.
Yeah. Okay, without naming like specific artist names, are there like certain motifs or looks or things that you see that bands use imagery wise or art wise, style wise that you are kind of personally sick of?
Yeah. How do you talk about it without specificity?
Well, we can just go on the next question if you feel like it, honestly.
No, the thing is like a lot of metal art, there's a sort of homogeneity that makes up a bulk of it. And it's not bad that there's a homogeneity to it, but there's, you know, within death metal, you're going to get either the horror violent thing, you're going to get Satan, or you're going to get aliens. Like that's your 3 flavors
pretty much, yeah,
of death metal aesthetic. And like within that, I think it's been interesting to see how much more free or like not obligated to precedent the cosmic death metal artists have felt, maybe just because it hasn't been, you know, used since the 80s. But also like there's such a challenge to make the satanic murder art more interesting and not just rote and not just checking a box off. But like in terms of like just designs and stuff, I feel like there's the thing that I'm the most tired of right now is, again, without naming artists, is people have really started relying on pre-made packs. And I think those are good. I think the pre-made packs are good. I think if you download a pack of paper textures, like, it's good that those exist and it's good that people have those tools. I feel like people have started taking these pre-made packs or these pre-made textures or these pre-made like brush sets, and they're using that tool as the art itself. So like you'll get these designs who have like the folded paper
Right.
squares in it, and you're like, okay, I understand that the aesthetic you want to go for is this has been printed, and that is awesome. That aesthetic is great. The thing that sucks though is I recognize that piece of paper that you're using because I know which pack it's from. And even if you don't know, the place that they licensed those 18 PNGs from, whoever on Gumroad, you look at it and it's like the number of designs I've seen that have that 6 square folded paper thing is like the sort of like the thing that's tying it together. It's so many. And like there's some like sets of like plastisol brushes, and it's like old plastisol crackles from shirts that got scanned in, and like
Yeah.
that's cool. I think all of these tools are awesome. It's just everybody is seeing those tools and everybody's jumping to use those tools. So I think the challenge is to use those to go somewhere interesting and not just be like, oh, cool, I've got this plastisol thing, so now I can make this faded looking, 1986 tour shirt aesthetic. And it's like, yeah, but you're using the thing that everybody else sees. Like, and like once you do that, you're sharing that originality with that other piece, with that other piece, with that other piece, with that other piece. And then it's like, rather than it standing on its own, which most of those designs are super cool, it kind of gets lumped into like, oh, it's the paper fold stuff. Oh, it's the plastisol crumbly stuff. And so it's those things that like the repetition of them make me go like, okay, like that's okay, I guess. But
I think that's really valid. Like what you just said, I think is a really good point that I haven't heard other people really specify as much either. So
I
no, I think that's totally fair.
I don't I
You don't want to be lumped into a trend or a gimmick when you're actually creating substantial art. Like so
yeah,
don't mess it up at the end or don't, fall into bandwagon because that's what's the hot flavor of the month right now.
yeah, I like, by all means, I everybody like uh that wants to try whatever aesthetic in whatever approach absolutely should try those things. Um it's really just like artists that I have seen do other stuff that has been challenging and exciting and interesting, get these things and like kind of just slap it in there and then start doing lots of stuff with just that thing and that idea slapped in there. And it feels like whatever curiosity and creativity was driving all the other stuff was kind of like relinquished, and it's like, okay, cool, I've got the shorthand now that I can rely on, and I'm going to um leverage that now, and I'm just going to keep using that over and over and over again. And it's, yeah, I don't know, you definitely do get like very discernible trends in like heavy art. And I think the really cool artists uh, tend to be aware of it and then synthesize what's interesting about it and join that with other stuff in their brain and make something different. And you have other people who are very much like checking a box of like, it's, here's like a fucking gauntlet,
Right.
oversized really big, and like it's, we put a threshold filter on it and spent, a little time on it and put the band logo over it really big, and there we go. Like that's valid too. It's just not that interesting to me.
Yeah. Well said. Before we get to the art, anything else you wanted to chat about?
Uh Man, I don't know. The thing that I've been curious about, and the thing I've been talking to, like I've talked to Caroline about, I've talked to, you know, other artist friends, is just like what has your creative process been like the last, say, 8 years, 6, 8 years? Like getting older for me, I'm 43, and like having these sort of milestones and these moments of like I'm 43 and I'll probably never be able to retire because I've gone through two massive recessions in the world, and then on top of that, like I've seen so many social movements come and try to enact some kind of change, and like the tide comes up and the tide goes back, and then like we're at this new level now where it's like I think the most horrific things I've ever heard about people behaving towards other people. And like everybody's just like, yeah, man, it's fucking Tuesday. I got work. Like
There's no consequences, and
yeah, there's no, which is not to say everybody's like, it's just Tuesday. I think the people that give a shit are the people that like, you know, we try to surround ourselves with because, oh my God. But yeah, there's just like, I try to make art or I sit down to like make something or write something, and I'm like, just the world being what it is and having been what it is for so long and all this evidence of what it is, and the world on an existential level is like, yeah, anyway, shit's gonna cost more coming from England now because I have thin skin, and we're going to nakedly destabilize a South American country, you know, just for the fuck of it, because it's what we do. And you're like, I have to be creative too. Like, how has that been for you?
um, I think I compartmentalize as much as I can. Like art to me is a compulsion, and it's, I don't know. It for me, it's like I can. I mean, obviously, we're different people. So when I show up to the art desk, it's like that's my moment of escaping, but also that's the problem I have to solve. So it can be very stressful in itself.
Yeah,
And what you just said and all that, I feel like my wife is the person who has to kind of like talk me off the ledge because I mean, all those things you're saying I agree with, and I'm very interested slash I do my best to know what's going on geopolitically. But the thing that she won't even let me talk about it sometimes, because the thing that I am fixated on that I do think potentially could be the end of humanity is AI. Like, I think about artificial intelligence once every hour at least. And
yeah.
it's not just AI art. Like, that's only the beginning. And the thing is, I'm also
Oh yeah,
like an obsessive sci-fi reader. That doesn't help.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
but
Like,
like
you're not seeing the connections, man. This is bad.
but like yeah, I, despite hating AI and thinking it's one of the worst things that we could have ever done as humanity, I also know a lot about it at this point. because I research the things that I'm afraid of. You know what I mean? It's like that's my way of dealing with it is
Yeah.
know everything about it.
Yeah. Give it a shape, give it a name, and
Yeah, like know your
know
enemy.
it.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like I know a lot about AI. I know a lot about AI alignment. I know a lot about the AI ethical dilemmas. I've read 4 books on it. So I'm very. It's just a big part of my mind. So when AI art was starting to come out, I remember, and there was a particular time in 2022 where it came out, and no judgment, just everybody, but people were, even artists were experimenting with it because it was a different sentiment. It was like, oh, this is weird. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't what it is now, where there's all these norms around it and cultural faux pas, I guess. So when I first saw the image that could come out of Midjourney, that was like not just fucking Bakinski or whatever, like just weird abstract shit, I was like, what does this mean? Like, where are we going from here? So I had that realization right then, and ever since then, I've just kind of seen how it's not only just come for visual art, but then it's come for music, it's come for writers, it's come for Hollywood and filmmaking. It's coming for basically everything. And to me, that's the thing that it feels like I'm a frog being boiled slowly. You know what I mean? So it's like geopolitical stuff. There's always been war and conflict and all that stuff, and I'm not diminishing it. But AI is the first new thing that is like a new chapter in humanity. And I know there's a bubble, and I believe there is a bubble, but internet was a bubble too, and it still revolutionized how we work. So I'm whether I like to admit it, I'm basically an AI doomer, and I don't like being that. But that's my relation to what you're saying, where it's like, yeah, there are times where I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I can relate on that level, but I make work anyways. It's like it's my way of completely, because my work is all traditional, all manual. Like it's my stance towards the opposite of what AI is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember playing around with Midjourney, and like there was like the initial like day or two where I was like, "Whoa, this is cool," because it's not something that I would ever be able to articulate myself and like put together myself, because there's a quote unquote freedom to it because there's no thought behind it. It's just, a very nascent model guessing and putting out something that happens to, I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's like you said, the very Beksinski, weird abstract kind of humanoid shape, whatever things. But then, very quickly it was like, well, yeah, I wouldn't create that, because it's not just because I don't have like the freedom to do it. There's no intent behind it. And
right.
I just don't care. Like, I don't care about an image that looks cool to look cool. And like, I'm sure you've seen it, the ridiculous proliferation of artists on Instagram that have 600 posts within like a 2-year period. And each one of them is like one of those weird, uncanny valley, metal looking knight with a flaming sword.
Or they're lifting weights, or they're doing the most random
fucking
shit.
Weightlifting thing. Yeah, that there's a trend I'm fucking tired of.
Fuck that shit.
And
the thing is,
like
people are smart about that now. You know what I mean? Like most people are not buying that crap because it's obviously shit.
Well, the thing that you see is like, you'll see those, and then they have process videos, and you're like, you are literally just tracing that in Procreate. That is not you iterating an illustration. That is you tracing the finished thing. That Dolly or whatever. I don't even know what the models are anymore now.
I mean, you could do it with even just ChatGPT. You don't even need the art platforms. The thing is, why go to that degree of deception for yourself and for the public? Like, it's like that's the one thing is like if you're gonna use these AI imagery, at least just fucking own up to it. That's the part that drives
Yeah,
me nuts. Is we open up the door, but not only open
yeah,
up the door, but we're like, oh, it's actually okay to basically commit fraud. You
yeah,
know, because that's essentially what it is, in my opinion. All this shit
yeah. If
is
you're
just plagiarism and
misrepresenting,
fraud.
if you're misrepresenting, then it's like, okay, you can be honest with yourself while you're misrepresenting it, or you can deny that you are misrepresenting it and uh, do the it's not AI, or you know stop gatekeeping, or whatever the responses are. Just so dumb. But I do feel in that scenario, which I do think is very real and very valid, like because it does exist just fucking everywhere, that it's polluting the internet. Like at this point it's
Yes.
more bots than humans. We're in the dead internet portion of the internet. I
Yeah,
think it's
absolutely.
actually kind of creating an interesting scenario where early internet dynamics could come into play again, where it's like, here's a very specific subreddit or message board or Discord server or whatever that is very specifically human beings vetted to be human beings, how, whatever Turing test thing we do there to vet that they're actually human beings until AI fucking figures out how to circumvent that. But like having very dedicated, very specific people who love these things that are human. And it's like, that's great. You can have this just nightmare of just automatic bullshit that's being, 500 horror books every day. There's like that podcast startup that was like, we're going to have like 700 shows by the end of the year, and they're going to be releasing episodes weekly. I'm like, why is that at all interesting to anybody? And
Yeah.
like, why is that getting 80 million in VC startup investment? Because they think it'll make money, obviously, but it's still like so much. There's so much of that, and there's so much detritus, and there's so many layers of just AI generated, impersonal, janky shit out there that it's like, cool, all that's up there. Now we can like kind of cruise around down here in the little basement and just like zine trading and tape trading from like the 90s. Like you had Blockbuster, sure, but you also had a friend who knew about some really weird fucking movies from Japan. And here's a dub of it that like you will never see in a video store for rent. And like that's awesome. Like getting back to
Yeah.
that, that'll be like if we can do that, and like same with like stories, like or books. Once the water gets poisoned by an author, like yeah, they might be able to like get away with it for like a little bit here or there. But if they get found out that they're using AI, then like people who are very just they love reading, but they love reading stories because that is one of the oldest human activities is storytelling. Then you're going to have these communities that are very specific and very dedicated to those things and exclusionary to the stuff that is automated and impersonal. And that I think will be, if that happens, will be really, really cool. Like already there's like some subreddits that I'm in that are like, very dark artwork and horror artwork. And it's really funny seeing people come in and try to like pass off AI stuff and just get torched and like uh, uh, either get their shit deleted, get banned from the sub, and you're like, cool. Like it's a bunch of art in here that I don't care about. Like it just doesn't do anything for me. But I know that it's a person scratching away at their desk. For some reason, they need to do that, even if it's just to like be noticed online. Whatever, it's still them. This is how I want to do it. Is because I'm making stuff, and like it's
Yeah.
got to be cool enough for people to look at. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna show it to people. That's fine. That's fine. It's everybody's there because they like that stuff, and that is what they're there to check out, even if it's not specifically what they like.
100%, man.
I hope that happens. We'll see.
It's what I try to do in my own small way. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I'm with you. Well,
Absolutely.
before we get too far ahead, let's talk some art. Pull some images up. If that works for you.
Yeah.
So,
A
yeah, with any of these, I mean, you can tell me about interactions with the band, what that relationship's like, but also the process of making it.
um Portrayal of Guilt are three piece blackened, I don't know what you would call them.
It's like hardcore adjacent.
Yeah, blackened hardcore kind
Yeah,
of.
just
It's
really
it
fucking good. Great drumming too. I know you
Dude, that
appreciate that.
fucking
That guy's
Jesus
fucking good.
Christ. Was it Salad Days or whatever his
Yeah,
Instagram
yeah, on
handle is?
Instagram. Yeah, check him out, guys. I just
Jesus,
I love watching
he-
drummers play, dude.
dude, like he's like he's playing. It's like a warm up, or he calls it like a warm up, where he's just like, oh, let's see if I can remember this song. And he's got, I think sometimes he's holding his sticks backwards, and he's playing the most. Yeah, he's obnoxious. Is how good he is, and how much I like watching his stuff. I'm just like, you son of a bitch. I've played for so long, and like I would be vomiting by the end of that, and you're just like, ah, cool, that worked out. Um, but yeah, they're super cool dudes. They wanted something that was like, we were talking about imagery, and I tend to break down imagery if I'm doing shirts. For, do you want it to be read from 15 feet away, or do you want it to be read from 5 feet away? And so Matt, their singer slash guitarist, was like, yeah, definitely 15 feet, just something very big, something very like clear. And so, like, I read through the lyrics, and I suggested a couple ideas, and there's something about like cage. And so I had had this photo forever of this old torture museum, I think in Europe somewhere, and I just hadn't found a use for it. And then I had this stock photo of this dude that was uh, dressed up to look like a hostage, and so I had to cut out so much shit from that cage, and then I had to put the hostage guy in there and mask all of his stuff out so it looked like he was behind the bars, and uh, do all the stuff so that the textures match and the lighting looked like it was all in the same world, and showed it to him. It was very, very painless. Um, yeah, they're cool dudes to work with. Uh, Easy to please. Um,
Oh yeah, that's the
I
best. I love what you're saying about something. Do you want something that you can read from 15 feet away or 5 feet away? Like that's such a
uh
good thing to ask a band when you're making
yeah,
a composition.
yeah. Because there are, like, I have I mean, not this shirt, but I have a ton of shirts that are like very, like, it's uh very intricate, granular detail. And it's one of those things where you really do, like, if you're like a couple feet away, then you're like, oh wow, that's like intricate or dense. But then I have a lot of stuff that's like unmistakable from 15 feet as well. So like, just having that scope is handy for me. The Nine Inch Nails shirt was just, it was a I've done a handful of bootlegs here and there. I'm forever conflicted on the concept of bootlegs, but I figured multi millionaires aren't going to be particularly devastated if I sell 50 of a shirt that doesn't exist, um, for very small margins. So I just wanted to do a Nine Inch Nails shirt that I wanted to see. They've worked with so many cool artists like David Carson and Rob Sheridan, and somehow a broad swath of their shirts have just not ever really done it for me. So I just was like, screw it. They've got a new album thing coming out and a tour. I'm going to make a shirt and, just kind of see what happens when I throw it out there. And like, tried very much to nod towards like David Carson's way of stacking rectangular shapes on each other and having these like conflicting textures sitting on each other. And the typography, it just I used the same typeface that they used for uh, the Fragile, and it's like, okay, like let's pick a lyric that is um, provocative and make it really big, and there you go. And that thing got printed bigger than I expected it to. I think in the file I specified that it was like 9 inches wide and maybe like 11 inches tall or something. And I think it got printed like 10 and a half or 11 inches wide. And like, however,
It's huge.
dude, so you're walking around and like, it's just the biggest billboard of your God is dead and no one cares. And it's like, yeah, I mean, fuck it. If you're going to have that message on your shirt, then like make it as big as possible.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh boy. So the beginning of understanding is a cover for a novella that I wrote. And I
Available
had
on
a
Gumroad, right? For sale.
yeah, yep.
Gotta plug you, bud.
My my wife is like the best, and one of the things that they do consistently is if I'm talking to somebody who's like creative, or like we're talking to somebody, something somehow comes up that's related to art, my wife immediately will be like, yeah, John made like this thing and he did this thing and he wrote this thing or whatever. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. Okay.
It's a wingman.
Yeah, it's like is my PR department and cheerleader and all that stuff. So I had a bunch of false starts with this one, but a barn and trudging your way through heavy snow factors in. So I spent like days finding reference images for different concepts from the story to try to convey in some way or to some degree like the atmosphere or like the enormity of that building and that open doorway to the story. So that's like that is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's about 8 images that are collaged together in there. Um, I decided to not do like the really high contrast thing because it wasn't going to be printed, like screen printed. And I was just at that point kind of tired of doing the high contrast thing. So, yeah, I tried to make it look like a book. I had to do, what do you call it? The perspective tool thing, and doing perspective tool with type and smart objects is such a pain in the ass, but there's like 4 different layers for the type there just to make it look like it's wrapping on the door thing up top.
I love
of
how
the
you
barn.
did that. It pays off though. It looks really
Oh, it
good.
sucks. And it blows your file size up, man. When you have like 30 smart object elements that all have photos in them and all have filter elements on those smart objects, your file size starts hitting like a gig and a half easily in like no time flat. The resin one's interesting. I am not super satisfied with this one. I think compositionally it's cool. And like the level of depth, like just cheating the bird up front and the big mountain in the back is just, standard foreground background stuff. But I think like that and the comet trail breaking the frame is effective. I don't usually work in color, and my mind doesn't think in like color sets. And so they had wanted to make it like a blacklight poster, and they were like jungle apocalypse. And I was like, okay, I'll figure out something. And so I found like some 3D artists that had like fireballs modeled, and I found photos of like columns of smoke and I couldn't even tell you how many different photos of jungle that is, and that the fire up top is like I think three or four different photos, and like I had a version of it that was black and white that I liked because all of the values were pushed or pulled out where they needed to be. But as soon as I put color on them, they competed with the depth of the bluish color or the orange red of the volcano. So I had to change them to things that I knew were wrong but were right for the color. And
Hmm.
I don't think that overall they succeed. Like when you see it up close, here it's very like it's shrunk down and reduced, but when you see it up close, like the things are a lot more even. The temple shadows aren't just kind of these awkward, weird blotches, and the mountain has a lot of like subtle uh, detail in it. But it's just I don't know. It never hit the point where I looked at it and was like, "Yep, that's it. That's exactly what it needs to be." It was just but I couldn't find the thing that like would make it all locked together. So yeah, end of the day, band was happy with it. So I was like, okay, you guys are happy with it. Let's stop torturing this and get it to the printer.
That's how it is sometimes.
And it's sold out too. So it was one of those things where I was looking, I was like, nah. And then I hit them up like after the shows that are on that thing. It's like, hey, I need to get a copy of that. And they're like, we don't have any copies. We printed like 75 of them and they sold out. I was like,
Damn.
okay. I don't know what is going to be successful. So I'm glad it was because you guys have to invest in printing it. I'm glad you guys made some money. And that's kind of all I really can hope for.
Nice.
Hey, these guys. Oh man. Chat pile are just the sweetest dudes. I cannot speak highly enough about that band. Those are the most just normal good people. There's no lifer musician stink on them.
Right.
They all came from like very stable jobs. They just like we're doing jobs. We have families. We just like playing music together. And then, oh wow, what if we get serious about it? Stin, who I talked with, the bass player, was like worked in was like an office manager or something at like a very like just job. So he's like just a nice dude. That's it. There's no yeah, nice dude. As a wife, a dog. It's like cool, man. Like you already had what you wanted, and now you're doing this thing because you guys really love doing it. Um, they
Great
did
to
a
hear.
yeah. They make me happy they exist because like having genuinely good people without stink on them is kind of hard to come by. Um, but they did an album recently with Hayden Pay to Go called In the Earth Again. And so they wanted a shirt for the tours that they were going to do after that album came out. And so Stin will like hit me. It was like, hey, you want to do a shirt? Also, like, what artists do you dig right now? And so like, I'll give him a bunch of the people that like we talked about earlier. Like, yeah, I like this guy, this guy, this guy. And he's like, oh shit, I haven't seen this person or this person. And he like literally will like ping them and go, hey, do you want to do a shirt? Like that day, just Mute Neighbor. I asked him. He said, "You make cool stuff. You do make cool stuff. You want to make a shirt." Um, so they did the album. The album's about nuclear holocaust, nuclear winter. In the Earth Again is a reference to humanity having to go subterranean because the surface of the world has been turned to glass, irradiated glass. Um, so I was reading the lyrics, and Randy writes really really cool imagery, and he had the line that I pulled out: "The second sun melts my eyes, the gates of heaven open wide." And he's talking about just the initial airburst of a nuke. And I was like, that really 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 grabs me. What can I do that is 15 feet, ready? And like a nuke going off for me just isn't inherently that interesting. Um, or I couldn't find a way to make it interesting, but I was thinking about just like just the getting blasted. There is a moment in time, however infinitesimal, where like you are getting sandpapered by the heat and the pressure and everything, and like just trying to capture that with like a collage of elements became the challenge. So yeah, that was a really fun one to do. That is, I think there's like 20 something photos in there. There's a lot of internal organs. There's a lot of like viscera from slaughterhouses. Um, there's a lot of bone that's not skull in there, like covering the eye that's missing. That that is visible is an eyeball from a goat that's been um, processed by a butcher. So it's just the eyeball sitting on like a piece of butcher paper or whatever, and cut that out. And it doesn't look so wrong that it doesn't look like maybe it's just part of a horribly disfigured human, but it
Yeah.
also gives that uncanny valley. Everything on the cheek below the eyeball, those like long sort of flowing things are that's muscle from like a cow that's just kind of flopped on the table, like from processing uh, a regular skull, and then a bunch of teeth that I at Woolly Mammoth in Chicago, this weird oddity, genuinely weird oddity store. Um, they have big bins of like medical X-rays and photos and stuff, and so I would always rifle through those when I lived there, and I found so many, so many, so many just really grotesque teeth photos, and people with like the lip spreader things, and like they've got just just fucked up teeth. And so I didn't use the most gnarly ones because I needed something that was readable because there's so much noise in that face. So I used one of the more typical. I put a bunch in the chin though. Yeah, that one was really fun to do. And then that's just paper marbling in the background that the skull is sitting on top of, just because I wanted something that approximated like the chaos of the nuclear blast.
It's awesome,
Um,
man. I mean, it's like images like this have a immediate impact, and I like
y-
analyze it on like a graphic design standpoint, like the way you've like composed it. But I
mhm.
because I don't work in the same medium as you,
Yeah,
it's like it's always so interesting to hear all the different photos you're having to stitch together to make this thing. Because
yeah,
like maybe somebody who's not aware of that they think that you literally took like a old photo of a nuclear victim, but no, you like
yeah,
which I guess that person is me, but like
yeah,
my point is like it's like so cool to hear that like how much goes into it, you know what I mean? Because it's like I judge the end result and I'm like that looks fucking awesome. He's got great graphic design, like choices, good composition choices. The thing that like I always come back to with you too that like sticks with me is, and we're gonna go slower. I'm just kind of showing for the sake of my argument is you're really good at composition. Like that's the
thank
thing
you.
that always sticks out with me is like I just immediately know where my eye goes and it creates this intrigue. So scale, composition, like I'm analyzing your art differently than how you describe it. And I think it's cool because you're fleshing it out more for me,
Awesome. All right, well, thank you. Um, that is very much my dad, who like early on was like, like when I was like seven or whatever, was like, here's the rule of thirds, and like you learn it, then you can break it in fun ways, and here's this concept and this concept. A lot of it, honestly, comes from film. Um, just
Makes sense.
having been so invested in film for so long, and like going to school for like a year for it, and one of my mom's high school classmates actually runs an effects house. It used to be called Studio ADI, and now I think it's just Gillis Studio. But he does like monsters, and Studio 80i did the Creatures and Starship Troopers, did the Graboids and Tremors,
Oh
did a bunch
wow.
of Alien movies, a bunch of Predator movies, did all the animatronic animals and creature effects in Jumanji. Uh, yeah, like I toured their warehouse, and like the brain bug is sitting there and it's like 12 feet tall, and it's,
Nice.
it's rotting because it's uh silicone and latex, but it's still very much that thing that was in that movie. And like hearing cinematographers talk about shot composition and like why they do specific things, like we're going to do all center framing so your eye is always looking at the correct thing, and you always have your starting point, and whatever sight lines we build into it are built in for you to discover, but you don't need to like, we're not giving you homework to like go through this thing versus like somebody who is giving you visual homework, and it is like you're expected to like really sit with the images and consider like what they're doing. All of that's, and then, like even fucking Michael Bay has like some very savvy ways of constructing action so that you don't feel like you feel like you're overwhelmed because the editing is relentless, but the shot compositions and the way that he stitches them together, your eye is generally looking where it needs to look for the next thing to happen, and then the next thing. Um, but the effects work was like there's some collage artists that do very visually, like Tommy Wilson does really excellent sort of classic punk flyer design, hardcore flyer design. So it's very like, you have the square that's sitting there, or you have the very visibly cut out thing that's sitting on top of the other thing. And it's
Mhm.
very much just, this is a paper thing that was put together and photocopied, and now you've got your thing. I have this really weird insecurity where like special effects stuff, makeup effects stuff really got into my head, like Rob Bottin in The Thing, and all Dick Smith, and uh, uh, all the other incredible artists, where they're very clever about how they hide where the seams are for
Yeah.
the effects stuff. And like you're doing a nose appliance, like you think the nose is just there and you think it's going to end there, but they actually like bring it out to the cheekbone because the actor's got really pronounced cheekbones, so they can hide the seam underneath there. And it also gives it more stability, or like the hairline for the wig you think is going to be right there at the edge of the hair, but they bring it down to the middle of the forehead so that the place that you subconsciously check for is not, you know, weird. Or like the way that they Cronenberg would work effects in on like Videodrome or whatever into a human body, and like where's the split from James Woods's body to the gut that has the VCR orifice, and just those things being hidden. Like I always wanted to, like, for the chat pile thing, I don't want the individual elements to be identifiable, because for me there's this weird insecurity where it's like, if you can pick out where the eyeball starts and ends, if you can pick out where all of the elements that make up the other side of the face diverge, and where there's a liver, and where there's intestinal elements, and where there's just a skull, and where, whatever, then it feels like the sum no longer stands on its own for me. And it's like, oh, it's, you just took this and this and this and this. I know that isn't true, but there is like a part of me who's like, I have to like hide this, a very compulsive need to like hide those seams. So yeah,
And I think
that was a lot of rambling.
no, not at all. I was thinking that like your for lack of a better word, fixation for like wanting to hide the seams, that ends up being an element of style, because you mentioned that the opposite can also be true, where a collage artist reveals it all. And that can also
Mhm.
be cool. So it's like, I think about it like there's some pen and ink artists who it's all about like that stark black and white, like Frank Miller, Sin City.
Mhm.
Whereas I'm more like, I paint with a pen in a full value range. Like that's what I like to do. So it's kind of like those fixations or impulses or decisions, they just end up being your style at a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely. The Dillinger shirt was kind of a like a I'm not going to try to hide a million seams. They have a song where Dimitri screams, "God bless you, fucking Queen." Everybody, when they play that song, screams it along with him. And I was like, I have this cool series of photos of this lady that is covered with a wet sheet, and you can definitely see her underneath it. But I didn't want to have like any specificity, so I just kept the form, and I really pulled the values down, so it was almost too abstract. And then I just plunked, a photo of a crown on top and cut it out so it looks like her head sitting in it. And like the seams are incredibly visible in that, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going to try to hide them. I'm not trying to make this look like an illustrated piece. This is supposed to look a little less refined or whatever. But it was really fun to do. Reached out to them on a complete whim when I saw that they were playing 25th anniversary of Calculating Infinity. That band, that album, in like '99. I saw them in 2000 with The Locust and Shat, and who else was there? Icarus Line, I think, in this tiny little like 150 person venue. They had the whole fire breathing thing. It was just mayhem from start to finish. And like 25 years later, being like, hey, you guys are playing again. Can I do a shirt for you? And having, the singer of the band be like, yeah, what are you thinking? Just don't do vacuum tubes because everybody wants to do vacuum tubes from amp heads. Like, no problem. I wasn't gonna. And so they ended up being happy with a couple of the designs. And yeah, that was a very big moment. That was one of the few moments where I was like, I tried really hard to like be aware of how significant that was for me.
Yeah.
Personally, like standing side stage while they played in Chicago and hanging out with them afterward and just talking to these people who I've been listening to for 25 years and just being able to shoot the shit with them matter of factly and go out into the crowd after the show had let out and seeing however many people with like that poster or that shirt was fucking wild. And it took a lot of like not second guessing or sort of demoralizing or imposter syndroming myself. But it was like one of the few times where I was like, this is fucking awesome. I made something, it made them happy. People who like them seem to be happy with it. That's rad. I'm here because like I made a thing. It was like one of the few times that my brain has allowed me to do that.
Yeah, good, man. Glad you celebrated.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that photo that design on the left is my favorite thing that I've ever done.
It's really good.
And I did that like 5 years ago. That is, what is it? It's one, two. It's 3 photos, but like that building, I really, really doctored because there was a bunch of windows that had shit in them that just didn't work compositionally, and sort of broke things up. So I have the full image of the building. So I was taking photos or images or portions of portions of the image from the part that you can't see and stitching them in there so that I could break up some things that repeated. I didn't want to just clone one window and replace it like 5 times because then, your mind is going to see that's a duplicate, that's a duplicate, that's a duplicate. And then you see like the seams or the process or whatever. So I was pulling out all these different elements. The photo of the guy, just stock photo of a dude falling, and the shadow is just that same photo, but filled completely black and moved off center. But compositionally, like it was, I think I broke it up into fifths instead of thirds. Um, and like the thing that I like the most is you have four-fifths of the image is this man-made structure. There's a repetition that is happening with it. There's also like the signs of life because you have like laundry, you have AC units, you have in my head in the narrative or the story that goes along with this, you have so many different apartments with so many different lives being led and so many different things happening that you don't see, and they are not seeing the figure that you're seeing, which is plummeting down the building. And having the open question of did the person jump, did they get pushed, whatever, like I didn't need to, I don't have an answer for that myself. I have one window that's open up top, that's it. um, but then all of that, and you have storm clouds to the side, and for me, like I couldn't figure out what that needed to be, and I got a photo that I had of like storm clouds in the Arizona desert, and I threw it in there and I made it really dark so it wasn't competing with the building. And for me that was the enormity of nature and the world and just the universe as a whole being so completely indifferent to the most momentous event in somebody's life. And this person, like for that guy, that is his world is as big as his field of vision because it's ending. And then you just have nature taking its course and completely indifferent to what is happening within it. And that idea of just the tininess and these sort of speck of dust and the endless expanse of space makes my brain really happy. So um yeah, the other one, I just wanted to make something creepy. um this one doesn't use the stamp filter and the grain stuff. All the other ones that we've looked at have, because those screen print a lot easier.
Mhm.
This one was only going to ever be printed digitally, so this is the photos have they're all smart objects. They have a noise filter thrown onto it, and then a threshold adjustment layer attached to that image, so I can adjust the black point. And like if I make bring the slider out over to the left, it makes the entire image darker because only the absolute brightest elements fall into the threshold of being visible. Or you move it all the way to the other side and only the blackest elements will show up because everything else is above the threshold for being visible. And so you add a bunch of grain to these images, and suddenly you have way more values to play with. You can pull way more detail out. So yeah, that's just some church door from Italy, I think, or Spain, and then a cobblestone walkway also from Europe somewhere. And then I uh, selected these dark areas and used the burn tool in Photoshop and basically just kept darkening those areas manually until it had just enough detail so it didn't look like it was just a solid black fill. And then very deliberately burnt those edges where the shaft of light is coming out. And also like dodged as it got closer to the door, so the intensity is there. And yeah, it's just like I wanted some sort of door open and something bad's coming out, or something bad's happening in there. We don't know yet, but it doesn't seem good. And then just let it be that sort of effect.
I guess both these have an element of suspense to them.
Yeah, yeah. It's they're designs like these for me are very narrative. The t-shirt ones are just like, is this an image that is arresting from a distance if you were to see it randomly?
Yeah.
These are much more like narratively focused.
It's really cool hearing more about them.
Thanks, man. it's weird talking about him, but it's it's fun.
Well, you're
It's
doing a great job.
thanks. It's just like periodically I'll be talking about it, like Christ, I don't know if anybody gives a shit. But at the same time, just talking art with an artist is fun. So who cares?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm in the same boat.
Music Box of Horror shirt is fun. I did the year before also. It was like a witch gathering in the woods with a giant goat priest thing standing in the middle of it. This one they had some oh god, Italian vampire movie, and it's sort of set in a swamp, and there's all these other elements, and they're like, we want something that references the movie, and on the cover of the movie is a keyhole, and it features in, but it's not the dominant element. And I was like, that's the frame for the image, because I don't t-shirts are a little trickier with like how they sit on the for me, because they don't have a natural border.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm just gonna have the shit in a keyhole. And so yeah, that's oh, one of the things that was an interesting new experience for me with this one was I had to find a southern looking house, a southern looking manor or estate. And oh boy, is it tough to find those and not have them be part of some sort of plantation. And it's like
You
there's
go
a
like New
lot of
Orleans or what? I mean, that'd be like
like
a better chance.
well, so I think this one ultimately came from Louisiana, but like there are a lot of houses and like stock photos of Southern Gothic architecture that do have some sort of plantation or slave related association. Like there's a ton of images out there that would have worked great, except that would be pretty horrendous to use them. So I was like, okay, can't use that, can't use that, can't use that. Found this one, was happy with it. Found some photo of a guy being weird, spooky, and yeah, uh, Spanish moss on a tree, and just threw it together. Um, Used Jason Carne's uh, type face up there for the type, and yeah, and then did Musical Box again because they did Godzilla, Godzilla movie festival.
That's really
Um,
cool.
this one, so that photo of like the Music Box in the block, one of my friends in Chicago is a realtor, and her colleague, who's also a realtor, has a drone that he uses because Chicago's got so many like three flats and tall buildings, and being able to get photos of them is difficult. And since I work with collage, I'm very much beholden to whatever images I can find. And most of the time, when you find building images, it's looking up, so that automatically like dictates what the composition is going to be. But then I like posted something about do I know anybody that's got a drone? And she put me in contact with him. I paid him $100. He flew out there. He took like 40 photos in raw format, so I had all the resolution, which is awesome. I had given him like references on Google Maps. So it was like this, but like you know, like 10 feet above the roof, so you can kind of see down at an angle. And I got a million photos of the Chicago skyline, and none of that geography is right. And then for Godzilla, I bought a figure, and I was testing like photos of it, and if I could get a convincing like scale. It did not work. So I was like kind of panicking. And I like started scrubbing through movie stills to see if I could find something there. I'm like, I'll fucking take a photo from a movie. That didn't work. And then I found this blog of this dude who just really loves Godzilla. Went to the Godzilla -1 premiere. They had a 12-foot tall statue, like made by the people that made the props for the movie. So it's as film correct as it can be. And he had like 60 photos of it. And I emailed him. I was like, I'm not going to get a reply, but fuck it. I emailed him. I was like, can I license one of these photos from you, please? And he's like, yeah, you can just have it. And no, 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 no. I'm going to pay you like something. He's like, okay, pay me like $40 and then give me a copy of the poster when it's done. So I got lucky. I had the best image of that figure as possible, and yeah, once I had that, it made it a lot easier.
That's a cool story, man. I like
Dude,
that.
this thing, because like you're talking about like sight lines and like where your eye's supposed to look, like having him in the background and having him blasting up to the foreground and looking left to right and all that stuff, having the clouds move down in that direction, because the whole event's taking place at Music Box, that was like 100% like, how do we bring the convergence point here? Because there is so much going on elsewhere. Um,
Brilliant.
yeah, it was really fun to do, and the amount of dodging and burning on those fucking storm clouds and smoke was like, we got to have enough contrast so that he stands out from it, but we don't want to make him too bright. We don't want to make the sky too bright and to have it overshadow all the other stuff. And yeah, it was a fun balancing act to figure out. Um, that church on fire is one of the oldest designs that I still have up, and I call that image the well, because anytime I need to scare up money because a medical bill or something has happened, I can put that shirt on pre-sale and pretty consistently sell enough of them to like pay whatever bill I've got up. And I've rerun that shirt like 7 times, and just every time, for some reason, a new group sees it, and for some reason that thing clicks. There's like it looks archetypal, and I think
Mhm.
that's what works about it. It's just a stav church stock photo, a bunch of random photos of fire, a lot of dodging and burning. Definitely not the best integration of elements that I've ever done, but yeah, it's effective, so I'm not going to second guess it.
Cool, cool.
Beyond the Gate. Beyond the Gate was terrifying because Mono's a huge band. Emma Ruth Rundle's awesome. Um, the Dim Dudes, one of their members is a fantastic artist in his own right, Bill Connors. So I wanted to do something that felt fitting for a show that was taking place in a cemetery, and also wasn't just like dark and spooky or like evil metal imagery, and had like some sort of finesse and delicate quality to it. So yeah, just a few photos of smoke and clouds, and then one woman's face and another woman's hands, and there you go.
It's beautiful.
I'm conflicted about this one. They hit me up. They have a song in their Minnesota El Oso album, talks about a detective finding a woman that's been killed at the base of a tree. And so I just wanted to see if I could recreate that image. I couldn't ever get myself to feel comfortable with the scale of the text on the left and the right, or the lighting for them. But that the woman that's propped up against the tree is actually one of my friends in Chicago, in her own apartment, leaning up against a couch. And one of our mutual friends just took a photo on their iPhone, and then they just emailed it to me because I couldn't find a female figure in that perspective, in that pose, anywhere. And so I hit up my friend. I was like, "Hey, you want to be a dead body on a gig poster?" And she said, hell yeah, I do." And so I showed her like the image, and I was like, "You're going to be like right there." And she's like, "Cool." And, half an hour later, I had exactly the photo I needed. Um, the sunburst is a cheat. That was just a lens flare that's thrown in there, and mask it out so it looks like it's actually going behind the branches, but having the sight line down to the detective, and then you see the detective looking at the woman. So you're seeing the stuff that you need to see in the order that you need to see it. And that tree was just, I don't know, it was just a photo of a rad looking tree. I was like, okay. And the band liked it. And I was like, sick, because I don't have any other ideas for a poster based on your lyrics. This is all I got.
Nice.
Oh, the chat pile guys. Yeah, so they've got a song about an infomercial dude, Don Lapre, who was like, real like realize your potential, and he was like kind of sweaty, cocaine, young looking guy. And he like made a shitload of money, and then I think like got caught, got busted, and so the song like repeats a bunch of his phrases. The unknown concepts and new strategies thing is something he said that they say in the song, and he killed himself by he had been like wrapped. He wrapped himself in like a blanket, like he was on the couch, and he did that because he had a box cutter, and so he cut his wrists and I think his throat or something, and he did that so that like nobody would know to help him until it was too late. And so I hit up Stin and I was like, "Hey, I have this idea. Is this too much?" And I showed it to him, and he's like, "Holy shit, no!" That's because like that making money image comes from his commercial. I screenshotted it and like rebuilt
That's
it.
cool.
Learn ways to make money is taken from the commercial. Order Ron's package is a reference to their drummer. And the 42069 thing I didn't think would fly, and Stim was like, "That's hilarious, we're keeping it." So the dumbest thing I've ever done stayed, despite my personal inclinations. Yeah, I pulled up a bunch of his commercials on YouTube, and then I found a photo of a hand holding a box cutter, and I was like, "That's the shirt. I don't have to do much." So yeah.
Love it.
Chelsea Wolfe poster. She really wanted rebirth and transformation. The album art that and tour art that they had was very egg focused. Um, I couldn't make an egg interesting for myself when I was playing with the different images. So I found a cool photo of a chrysalis. All of that that's God, that's two different branches of cherry blossoms. That's the chrysalis. That is three different photos of vegetation behind it. I think it's okay. I don't think the separation and the composition is that successful. I couldn't really figure out a place that the type could go that I felt excited about. It was fun. Uh, the image of hell is very much an ode to John Martin's like apocalypse paintings and paintings of hell.
Those are
I couldn't
amazing.
even. Yeah, like that dude. In terms of like older artists, John Martin, Goya, and um, Durer, both all three of those dudes are like just the sense of scale that they pull off is awesome. Yeah, so this is I don't know, this is like 70 different photos. It's like cliffs from Scotland that is hand drawn, lava rivulets coming down. The bridge in the middle is another cliff face, but just chopped. The figures standing on the foreground are like some weird order or sect in Europe on like some sort of procession. Completely different ones in the midground, but whatever. And then just a bunch of photos of fire. Those are just like turbulent waters in there, and a big, cool-looking church that I'm sure a bunch of people in Europe saw and went, "Really, that one?" Because that's just the church across the street from whatever. But it looked cool for my purposes, and yeah, that was fun.
I think this is the last one then.
Cool. Yeah, because we've definitely run long because I've rambled. Um, this image on the left was a collaboration with me and Grady. Grady did the decapitated, rotting, triumphant destroyer Jesus. And we had talked about doing something together forever, and he showed that to me. I was like, I think I got an idea. So then I built a ruined landscape, a million structural photos. Another one of those ethical things where like I could find a ton of photos of buildings that were in ruin, but they were in ruin from like some sort of conflict or war, and using imagery that's actually involved or has been part of something that's happened directly like that just feels weird.
Is that like a common collage artist like Ethical Dilemma, or is that something for you? Because I
I
just I mean, I get it, but I've never thought about it that way.
I really don't know. There are some artists that use really flesh flies, uses
Mhm.
really intense photos of viscera, like dissection photos, crime scene photos, and I love her work. She pulls off the most incredible compositions with just this random availability that she's amassed. I couldn't ever do that myself. I can like the art because I don't know where the images came from. But for me, if I do know the source of the image and I do know that this was like a bombed out residential building that like 200 people were killed in, then like using that photo feels
Okay.
not good.
I
Um,
get it. Yeah.
so some of those buildings are like okay, and I wrecked them. Some of them are just they've fallen into disrepair because like whatever the country that they're from was an economic downturn and just sat there for 40 years and wasn't used. The rubble up front is just like uh, torn up streets in somewhere in the U.S. And the other image, I had a photo of a priest doing communion. So in the original photo, he's holding up a communion wafer. That altar and the stuff on it are all different things that I put on there. I replaced the emblem in the middle of the cross with the Key of Solomon sigil for Lucifer. Um, Photos of Iceland, I think, for the landscape, and then that is a photo of a nebula. That is a photo of an alligator gar's mouth, and then um, I can't remember what I used for the streaks of light coming at the viewer, but yeah, just threw them all together and was pretty stoked about it.
I especially like that one.
Thanks, man. It
There's
was
something like cosmic about it that's like it really does look like it's in a movie, that one.
yeah. I tried so many different things. I tried to do like more of a direct Lovecraftian nod, so I had a bunch of I like 200 photos of octopi and both in the water and then like at a market and just like the arms or whatever in a million different poses, and I couldn't get the enormity of them to convince me
Yeah.
of they looked too much like an octopus arm that was taken a photo that was taken from 2 feet away. Like, nah, it's not convincing. I needed something that wasn't quite as immediately identifiable. Teeth are kind of cheesy, but whatever.
I don't think in this case at all. No,
I mean, that's cool. I'll take it. I
yeah.
looked. I was like, oh, big scary teeth. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, but they're like not like typical teeth, and I don't know that. I mean, everyone gets impacted by different pieces and different
Mhm.
works of art. I think that
Mhm.
one, and then like you said, the apartment building one. Those are my favorites.
Nice.
But
That's
sometimes you
cool.
just hit that magic point. You know what I mean? But like everyone could have a different
Absolutely. Yeah.
favorites. That's just the ones that like really I absolutely love. So.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Well, dude, this is a ton of fun, man. I'm glad we finally got to talking.
I really appreciate you hitting me up. This was nerve wracking, but also incredibly fun to be able to shoot the shit with another artist.
Yeah, dude, this is very natural and easy. So, everybody, please follow Jay on Instagram. It's Mute Neighbor, and then the book that he did, or the novella he did, just right. It's on Gumroad for purchase.
Also under the same username.
Yeah, and the links there in Instagram. But yeah, beyond that, last question I always ask is just, what's one piece of advice you have for other artists or illustrators, people interested in getting in the scene, or what do you think maybe something someone else needs to hear?
Um,
Which I'm like, that's kind of building up like the advice, but just what's the
yeah.
parting note?
If you don't like what you're making, then I don't think you're going to last long. If you are executing somebody else's idea to the letter, but not in a way that you connect with. Boy, that it's very mercenary. And if you could do that, that's great because you're going to be able to fucking knock out commissions. But I think it's going to burn you out. Um, just for me, I have to make things that make me happy, which you know, not running it through the filter of will this sell as I'm making it really does shoot me in the foot a bunch because I'll make something like I'm stoked on this. Shit, this isn't going to look good on a shirt. How can I pull a couple elements from it, simplify it, and make
Yeah.
it more of what it needs to be? But like really, just make stuff for yourself because I think creatively having a practice or having art that you're making outside of producing for other people is critical. And I think that's from the same source. And you can't neglect one in favor of the other. So, make that the commission stuff as much for yourself as you can while still trying to get what the person needs across. Also, don't be afraid to say, no, I'm not the right person for this. Say yes to everything that you can if you want to. If you're young and you can do like 5 commissions at the same time because you're vital and have energy, awesome. Do 5 commissions at the same time. If you're happy with them, that's all that matters. But man, if you like, I will get people that'll hit me up and like, yeah, so I was thinking this and like a Technicolor, blah blah blah, and this thing over that, and then like this bloom of color, and I will write back and be like, I can recommend a couple artists to you, but you messaged me through Instagram. You see what I have. What I work in very high contrast black and white, so I am absolutely not the person. I'm going to fuck this up so much. You do not want to work with me on this. I will not be able to. I will not feel confident that I've done the right job. You will probably not be happy because I'm not good with color. My brain doesn't get it. Yeah, so use this person instead. Oh, and know your worth. Know your worth. Early on, you're probably going to take jobs really, really cheap, or just for a copy of the shirt or like a +1 on at the show, and that's fine as long as you're fine with it. When you start going, you know what, my time is limited. Lots of people are hitting me up. I actually have to choose between these things now. Then knowing what to charge that is something that feels like, okay, I know that I'm going to spend way more time on this than I'm going to get paid for, but still, if I get this money, this will feel okay.
Right, fair deal.
Yeah. For me, so much of my work is trial and error that like my commission rates are usually like here compared to like the amount of time that I spend looking for images, trying out combinations and experiments, whatever. And that's fine. I'm okay with it because I didn't start making art to make shirts. But yeah, know your worth. Like if somebody tries to lowball you, then say like, you know what, good luck finding somebody that's going to do that for $50. That's insane.
Yeah, I think you're
Don't.
absolutely right. People who lowball don't appreciate the art, so they're not going to be the right person to connect with anyways.
Yeah, there's a very like casual sort of flippant tone that you'll come across sometimes where it's like, yeah, you just like throw a skull and like an upside down cross thing and like put our logo on it. And like, if that literally is all it is, then you can do that. If you want me to take those elements and make it interesting in some way that isn't just, then like we're not going to be doing $25 for that. Like it's going to be a little bit more.
I would add to your thing of like, know what a good inquiry into a good business relationship looks like the introduction email versus a bad one, because it's like it just compounds into being like, why did I even engage? Because it's not like we're like uptight people, you know what I mean? But like, you can tell when somebody just is. It's so like. I mean, it's like they're like treating you like Facebook Marketplace, dude. It's like fuck.
Yeah, or Fiverr or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's it.
There,
You're never going to be happy taking those jobs.
there's also like the people that are just like almost manic energy with like 16 different ideas and like just very stream of consciousness. Those people are nightmares to work with also because
Yeah, they have to be decisive
you're,
at a certain point.
yeah, that is so hard to get to, and there you need to babysit them and manage expectations and a dozen other things. So yeah. Yep.
Well, there we go. There's advice with Jay. But yeah, thank you guys.
Just hit up people. Just hit up people. The number of
Yeah.
artists that I know now, just because I message them and ask them a question, like ask questions. And then when people ask you questions, remember that you were the dweeb that was asking questions. Like if people are pricks to you when you ask a question, then fuck them. Like they make cool art. They don't need to be cool people. But yeah, ask questions because you can learn so much. Sorry, that was the last one.
Oh, I'm glad you squeezed that in there. But yeah, thank you guys again. New episodes a couple times a month at least. And please follow Jay. Until next time,
Hell yeah.
see you guys.